just one thing that I really need to call out. I think it should be an obvious thing, but I've seen so many companies and organizations with many sizes that don't really realize that localization is something that is way broader than just having languages and translations. It's like really in the heart and core of the full user experience and the customer experience design of whatever kind of product, whether it's a digital product, an offline product, whatever. So it goes much way further and deeper than just having some translations to be available for a specific market. And like Ryan said, for example, I'm actually from the Middle East. I come from Egypt, and while it's technically not very easy to adopt right to left languages like Arabic or Hebrew or Farsi, but it's really important to show that the full experience, like, is localized in a way to be able to speak your language. And it makes the platform or whatever product you have more closer to the customer. But also the context of the content that is being created using that language. It's not just straightforward translations that you have to do. So, for example, the Middle East, the Arab world, it's like 26 countries. Yes, all of them, they speak Arabic, but in 26 different dialects. And, there are different terminologies and different words that you could use here and not use there, and they mean different things and all of that. And like, I remember even in my early days when I was working with my friends in college, and sometimes we just, went through the Windows operating system and turned it into Arabic just to have some fun and some laughs about the translations and how everything is translated. Like, it was hilarious. So like realizing that localizing is more than just a translation. It's the heart of the context and of how you create content. Translation and languages are just tools to actually create content, to promote whatever you are doing on that platform, and to make the user experience more engaging and more easy, and hence gaining the trust of that specific demographic that you're trying to localize to. But also it goes further than that into understanding really the culture that you're addressing and creating content for. Also, like, it goes into the small details, like, adapting specific date and time formats, for example, or supporting different currencies, local and regional payment methods, for example, are things that are way beyond languages and translations, but they actually enable and they build trust with the whole user experience and customer experience on your platform. And of course, talking about the UI design itself, having it customizable, having it adaptable, again, relevant to the culture that you're trying to address. And of course, making sure that you are adhering to some content sensitivity between different cultures, again, that you are trying to address, just to make sure that you're not offending anyone, that you're not actually shooting yourself in the foot by trying to promote something in a specific way that might not be very convenient or very accepted in some areas of the world, or not understood in the same way that you mean. In order to be able to do this, you need to be always like very close to the different markets that you are trying to assess, and have ruthless prioritization of what markets are really important for you to target them with that kind and that level of localization. Because, let's admit it, like, you cannot really serve and fully localize your whole platform, your whole experience for every single market that you're serving and operating in. So there has to be like one global version of whatever you're doing, and then you start picking markets depending on some criteria that you decide across the business, and the criteria that is decided by leadership, by how they're strategizing about growing the business. And then you start having this laser focus on how to really and fully localize the experience, and collaborating with different teams across the organization to deliver that localized experience, because it's either that you nail it, you get it like real good, or it's gonna be a wasted investment at best, or it really hurts your credibility, hurts your trust, and so on. I could mention an example of, like, it's going to be a vague example because I cannot really share a lot of details and I cannot name the platform. But one platform was wanted to launch just for marketing and promotional reasons, wanted to launch Hindi language because India is a massive market, massive population. We want to be localized. Let's launch the language. Invested a lot in people and doing and shifting everything and doing all of that, a lot of tech. And realizing after 1.5 years of this launch, then there was no impact whatsoever. There was no conversion because number one, India was not a priority market. Number two, they were not a leading player in that market. There are like 5 or 6 other competitors that are having more market share. So like the market adoption is already low. And like during the year and a half, like 1,000 people used the Hindi language. They always prefer to use English just, for using that platform. So like that was a totally wrong decision based on the wrong criteria and like no really solid or like good market insight. And also, how do you perceive your brand and how are you building your whole localization strategy? One other very simple example that I could mention that shows the evolution of how you could start building a localization strategy. It could start by like, yes, supporting languages and translations. And then you go into supporting more details into the whole experience, then going into customization, and then going into personalization is when you go into Google Maps and then you start, you're used on using some metrics like kilometers or miles based on where you're from and where you're living, right? So it starts by supporting that, having that in the system, and then giving you the ability, which is customization, to pick for yourself. What do I want to see? Do I want to see kilometers or miles? And then going into a higher customization, which is, okay, now you're living in a kilometer country, and then you travel to a miles country. So it automatically shifts. But then it gives you personalization when you could say, okay, for me, my preferences is to use this metric, whatever I would go. Or it would give you the choice of, okay, now you're in a country that does this or that. What do you want to do? And then it goes into more and more personalization. Now, also one good thing here is that this Gen AI boom that we're living in is allowing us right now to discover into the topic of hyper personalization, like how really to personalize for you as a person, Omar or Adam or Ryan or Dinos, that what are the things that you really like? How do you want to do things? How and shifting the whole experience into experience that is not just designed for English people or Arab people or people like, from Latin America, but like just for you personally. And I think that's going to be something really interesting that we would see in the next coming years.